My name is Hassan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, Shorts. There's no co-host on these Shorts episodes. We have extended the time on these shorter episodes from 5 to 6 minutes to 15 to 20 minutes for this season. This is so that these shorts can serve as introductory episodes released ahead of our weekly, longer form episodes. But don't worry, I will still let you know my observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership, particularly as we prepare for the restoration of leadership and leadership principles during the next historical high in America. Why these episodes? Well, because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 15 to 20 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book that you bought with that famous person's name as the author, but you haven't applied any of the principles from that book to your leadership practices. At least not yet. Improvisation, integrating conflict, acquiring discipline, maintaining creativity, and establishing storytelling. All of these things occur in just one genre of music, and that would be blues. Or, as some of you more commonly know it, jazz. Jazz is fundamentally the American experiment. All of our history, all of our needs, all of our desires, all the things we've been through and all the things we've avoided, set to music. The core idea behind jazz, that disparate people can come together to express their deepest emotions through a cooperative act of organic orchestration while also improvising, picking up from each other the thread, and grooving right along, is at its bottom an experiment. It is at its bottom a radical innovation that only people who came to this country could have created. But through the cultural flattening brought on by institutions at one end and brought on by your neighbor endlessly posting highlight reels of their lives on social media, the last 25 years of culture in America have convinced us that we need to conform rather than stand out. Using, leveraging, and even hearing the music, hearing the signal of the music above all of the noise of everything else, and that we should probably create music that the gatekeepers don't want us to play. We firmly believe here on this show, despite all evidence to the contrary with your eyes, that in America, we are on the cusp of a new golden age, and we believe this sincerely, not ironically, not sarcastically, not detached, but actually engaged, actually holding it in our hands. We believe this with pragmatic clarity because we see the beginning intimations of people hearing the jazz. Small groups of people at first. Jazz always starts with a quartet and then eventually evolves to a full orchestra. We see them beginning to hear the music above the noise, the endless drumbeat of noise that has been occurring in this country since at least September 11th. And we believe that this new soundtrack, this new music that will be something very old, actually, and it will be based on the blues. The book we're going to cover on the next episode of our podcast is Stomping the Blues by Albert Murray. And Albert Murray's biography as a cultural critic and writer you can actually get from episode number 140. I would encourage you to go back and listen to that, where we covered his great book, The Omni-Americans. In The Omni-Americans, he made this point about the blues, and it's worth actually taking in. And I quote, "Indeed, the blues idiom represents a major American innovation of universal significance and potential because it fulfills, among other things, precisely that fundamental function that Constance Rourke ascribes to the comedy, the irreverent wisdom, the sudden changes and adroit adaptations she found in the Yankee backwoodsman Negro of the era of Andrew Jackson. It provides," and I quote, "emblems for a pioneer people who require resilience as a prime trait." Close quote. Albert Murray understood blues music. He also understood America, and most importantly, he understood the intersections and the dichotomies between both of those identities. He also understood the ways in which blues impacted not only the ears of the listening public in the modernist mid-20th century, but he also could understand and could project forward the way it might point forward or point to the future in clarifying and distilling and bringing resolution, potentially, to larger cultural problems in America. Albert Murray, born in 1916, was the author, and died in 2013, was the author of 13 books, including Murray Talks Music, Albert Murray on Jazz and Blues, Riptide, The Life and Opinions of Papa Joe Jones, and Good Morning Blues, the autobiography of Count Basie, all of which were published by University of Minnesota Press. He himself was a renowned jazz historian, a novelist, and social and cultural theorist. Finally, he co-founded jazz at Lincoln Center in 1987, which still, in spite of everything, goes on today. Albert Murray, much like the guy who opened up The Godfather, that Italian immigrant who wanted The Godfather to do something for him, he believed in America, and he believed in a blues idiom raised, nurtured, and cultivated in an American ideal. And on this show, I believe in America. Now, what does that mean for us? Exiting a time of chaos into a golden age? Well, it means we're going to need something to tap our toes to. In myths, great and otherwise, from Pinocchio heading into the belly of the whale to rescue a confused Geppetto, all the way to Belle rescuing her father in Beauty and the Beast, the hero always goes on a journey to retrieve the spirit of his or her dead father, the dead patriarchy, which is the only thing that can revivify the future. We, as a culture, cannot go back much further than to the spirit of our fathers. And we can't do this individually. We can't go back much further than my father or your father. We can't go back to our grandfathers because they're too far removed from us. But culturally and societally, we cannot go back much further than the spirit of the father of us culturally and societally, which that culture was the culture of the modern era. A culture defined by, yes, blues, and yes, rock and roll, but also a culture defined by the lessons of World War II, the greatness of baseball, the coming of TV, and much later on, the golden age of the 50s and 60s, before the unraveling occurred and we began to enter into the era we just came out of, a postmodern era defined by a lack of truth, an unraveling of beliefs and institutions, and of course the postmodernist declarations of power and bending the knee to power of Derrida, Foucault, and Lacan. Now, the myth of return, some of you will push back on me on that, and you'll say, I don't believe in myths, Hassan, or that's just foolish happy talk, or can't you see what's happening with your own eyes, or didn't Nietzsche talk something about myth of return? Well, the myth of return is indeed that. It's just a myth. It's a story we tell. But also as a practical matter, of course, every myth, every story needs a soundtrack. And the toe-tapping improvisation of blues, or jazz if you will, particularly in an American context, provides just that. By the way, for those of you worried that we will be too late, that the hour has passed, or that we have somehow, as a country, missed the boat and will fall into ignominy, decline, and irrelevancy, I want you to hear me. I have empathy for your position, because I too hold that position in tension. Be not afraid. Americans are always too late. We've always, quote unquote, just missed it. And we always, as Marty said in Back to the Future Part 3, we always cut these things so damn close. That's all part of the American myth as well. We always get here, or get to wherever it is we're going as a culture, a society, an economy, and a people. We always arrive on the frontier just in time. How very bluesy of us. And well, that's it for me. Are you ready to elevate your leadership journey through exploring the wisdom of the ages? Subscribe to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube Music. You can also find us everywhere else podcasts are available. If you find value in our episodes, please leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. We need those reviews to grow, and it is truly the easiest way to help other leaders and lovers of literature discover this show. And thank you for your support.